Hello and welcome back to the Extra Point, where today we will be completing part 2 of our big kickoff episode. And today, as part of today's episode, we are going to be doing our full 2024 season preview, as well as making our full Week 1 game picks. So we've got a lot to cover just now. And my name is Jonathan, and I'm joined once again by my very good friend, Jim. How are you doing?
Doing well. I have to air a complaint. You've made me look the fool today.
Have I done?
You have. I wore the same outfit I wore yesterday to keep continuity in the podcast, and here you are wearing a new outfit, thereby proving that it is a new day, and now I look like I'm just wearing the same thing 2 days in a row.
Yes, well, to be fair, we didn't establish a pact that we should wear the same clothes again. So
That's
so I feel like I am in the clear there. But yes, yesterday, as you just alluded to, we mentioned this during the episode. Yesterday, we filmed that episode just before the kickoff game. And so now this is the Friday. We've seen that kickoff game. What did you think about that game, by the way?
Good game. I think, well, we'll address it more in our picks, I guess, when we reveal who we actually did pick for that game, right?
Yes.
But I thought it was a great kickoff game. Really got us back into the season at full force. No lack of excitement there, to be sure.
Definitely, yeah. I thought it was a very, very well done, hard-fought kickoff game. And so, as you said, we will talk a bit more about it as we get into our picks for this week. We'll talk about who we picked for yesterday's game and whether we were correct in that or not. But first, I think we have to pick up where we left off because we have so much ground to cover today. And where we left off with last episode was talking about some storylines that we're watching going into this season. And a topic that I know you and I are both very keen to touch on before we get into the specifics of our division winners and losers and our game picks is we wanted to talk about the coaching situation. What's the coaching landscape in the league just now? In particular, we wanted to look at some coaches on the hot seat coming into this season. You know, who's in, who's out, who may be on their way out. And so with that, I think, did you want to start off by talking about perhaps the coach on the hottest seat, I think, coming out of last year's playoffs, Mike McCarthy?
Yes. Mike McCarthy, I feel like in the past couple of seasons, he has shown that he can win regular season games. Obviously, that's important, but he has yet to prove that he actually has the ability to win in the postseason. And I think that's pretty concerning for the Cowboys. There's no point in excelling in the regular season if you don't do anything when it matters most. So if the regular season success doesn't start translating soon, I think they're going to be taking a much closer eye at him.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the Cowboys coaching situation, frankly, is always fascinating. It's a source of endless entertainment for fans of rival teams like you and I are. The situation with Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys is this. You know, Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner, has many different venues through which he can express his opinion. He appears on all different kinds of podcasts. I think he has his own podcast, and he has the Cowboys in-house radio station on which he does his weekly radio show. Basically, it's a Jerry Jones fireside chat for Cowboys fans everywhere that he does every week. And so what Jerry Jones thinks on any given day is not much of a mystery. He's more than happy to tell you. And Jerry Jones has made his position on this situation very clear. Jerry's like 90 now. And, you know, he is getting tired of putting off the sweet embrace of death. But he can't die until the Cowboys win another Super Bowl. He's made that very clear. He goes on living, perhaps out of sheer spite, because he simply cannot die until the Cowboys get another ring. And they're not getting it under this current regime. It hasn't happened. What we've seen during Mike McCarthy's tenure is they're a strong regular season team. We all know that. Very strong in the regular season, pretty reliably. But then they come into the playoffs and they flame out in the most embarrassing fashion possible. Usually in the wild card, one time in the divisional, but usually in the wild card they come in and they explode in front of the entire country and indeed the entire world in the most embarrassing fashion possible.
It's my favorite holiday.
It really is great. I mean, you can set your watch to it, honestly. It's fantastic because it's the same time every single year. And, there's a lot of us who really thought, especially after last year, what happened at home against the Packers. The Packers came in and just whipped them up and down the field. There were a lot of us who were thinking, well, that's got to be the last straw for Mike, right? Because here's the thing about Mike McCarthy, right? He's the kind of guy who, yes, he does have some pedigree. He won the one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, all the way back in what feels like the dark ages of 2010, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yes, he does have a certain degree of that pedigree that he won the Super Bowl one time, what feels like an eternity ago. But nobody really looks at Mike McCarthy as being a strong or imposing coach. If in the regular season, sure, they can just open up a big lead on you and they can bury you, right? But if it's close, getting down into crunch time in the fourth quarter, what do we always mock Mike McCarthy for doing, right? He doesn't make adjustments. He just stands there like a deer in headlights, like a toad on a log in the sun, like a helpless bystander, like he's not the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. He makes no adjustments. His clock management is awful, and they piss the game away.
Our plan has been foiled.
Exactly.
Well, we'll get him next year.
It's literally like a deer in headlights bystander, like he's not the head coach of one of the teams playing.
This isn't how I scripted it.
Well, exactly. And in the playoffs, that's when that is at its worst, right? And the Packers came in with a not literally a rookie, but practically a rookie quarterback, and again just whipped them up and down the field. It was embarrassing.
When they were not expected to and had absolutely no reason to.
Exactly. And so why did Jerry, who again is incredibly impatient to win that next Super Bowl so he can finally die in peace, why has he still kept Mike McCarthy around? Well, because we both know, as fans of rival NFC East teams, how clubby the Dallas Cowboys atmosphere is. It's very clubby. The reason why Jerry keeps Mike around is not because he's some brilliant football mind. It's because Mike is someone that Jerry can have around to the estate on a Friday night, drink beer, eat chicken wings, and Mike will tell Jerry constantly how clever Jerry is for being the owner, GM of the Cowboys, and telling him how much he knows ball. That's what Mike's good for, because Mike can come around on a Friday night, drink beer, eat chicken wings, and inflate Jerry's ego. That's what Mike does. And that's what he does so well.
Yeah. But at some point, Jerry's gonna have to wake up, and as you said, he's God knows how old now. He wants another ring. He's going to have to do something soon, and perhaps maybe that the positive affirmations will no longer be enough.
Exactly.
For him. I mean, again, I can't reiterate that enough. We get 36 regular season wins. I had it written down here. He has 36 regular season wins, and how many playoff wins does he have out of 36 wins in the regular season?
One? Yeah, just one. Yeah, just one.
That can't happen. If you get that many chances, that can't happen. It's been years now.
Exactly.
And the final point to make here is he's on the last year of his coaching contract as well. If he doesn't win a playoff game this year, I don't see any reason why the Cowboys would be inclined to renew that contract.
Oh, no. We're beyond that. Last year was you have to win a playoff game. Now, given what happened last year, it's Super Bowl or bust. That's it.
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. And so even if he wins a playoff game, if they get bounced in the divisional, it's not going to cut it. He's done. Head comes off. So it's Super Bowl or bust. And so I think Mike McCarthy, of this list, and we have several coaches on the hot seat here, I think McCarthy's seat has to be the hottest. Because even Jerry Jones's patience has now dwindled down to almost nothing. And, yeah, if they don't make it all the way this year, it's done. Game over for McCarthy. He's out.
Poor trusting Jerry Jones.
There it is.
Sweet trusting.
Exactly.
Who is the coach he kept around for way too long, too, that always went 8-8 every year? What was that guy's name?
Jason Garrett.
Jason Garrett, yes.
Who was like a son to Jerry, by the way. Jerry literally looked at him like a son, and he kept him on for like a decade, but even his patience ran out with him eventually. So,
well, they have a similar skill level, I will say.
to be honest with you, I really think that Jerry Jones loved Jason Garrett more than most of his actual children. And even Jason Garrett got fired eventually. So what do you think he's going to do to Mike McCarthy? I think that if he doesn't make it to the Super Bowl this season, Jerry Jones isn't just going to fire Mike McCarthy. Jerry Jones is going to fire Mike McCarthy out of a cannon as far away from Dallas as humanly possible. So, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen there. But let's move on to another NFC East coach who I think has to be, his seat's got to be getting hot now. And this is someone that you know very well.
The Italian-American, Nick Sirianni. The other NFC East's Italian-American, I should say. We still have, what was his name? The Giants quarterback.
Tommy DeVito.
Is he still there?
Yeah, he's still with us.
He's still kicking?
He's still kicking.
The NFC East's penultimate Italian-American in Nick Sirianni. Look, one has to wonder. I mean, the first half of last season started off so well that perhaps you can attribute it to just being a fluke, that huge fall off. It was so unnatural that I would struggle to find any concise single explanation for it, whether it was the coaches or the players or anything else. There's something more there, and I don't know what it is, but I mean, it was just so dramatic that I don't know if you can pin that on the coach or anyone else, but we'll have to see this year if that was an indicator of a larger problem in the organization. Yes. There's been talk lately about fractures starting to appear in the relationship between Hurts and Sirianni. And I'd say if I'm Howie Roseman right now, the Eagles GM, would I want to keep Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni? That's an easy choice. If that becomes a problem between those two, he's out like that. Because Jalen's the guy. If you can't work with him, you need to get out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is heavily dependent on how the Eagles start this year.
Yes.
Goes well, he's safe, at least for the rest of the season. Goes poorly, or goes well at first, but then has that massive drop off, definitely out, because we have the talent to win now. I'm sorry, the Eagles have the talent to win now. I am impartial. The Eagles have the talent to win now, and we can't be having just massive, devastating, multi-game skids like that if we want to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think you just summed it up perfectly. I don't have much else to add to that other than, yeah, the whole story here is the skid at the end of the year. I mean, you guys, it was really after that bye week, wasn't it, when the wheels really fell off?
Mm-hmm.
And when you guys fell, you fell hard. I mean, it was a precipitous fall. And, there was, I think, a lot of talk coming out of your Super Bowl run in 2022. How badly are the Eagles going to suffer from losing both their offensive and defensive coordinators, accepting head coaching jobs elsewhere? How badly are they going to be affected by that? And 2023 taught us, especially at the end, quite badly. It was a loss, definitely. Losing those two guys clearly, cost you a fair bit. And I think that Sirianni's seat has to be hot now because they have to have success. And, oh, yes, everything all right?
That reminds me of actually what might even be a much bigger point here is that we now have a situation where the Eagles have fired and replaced both of the coordinators, the offensive and defensive coordinator.
Yes.
So the pressure's solely on Nick now. If they don't win, we know that it was the Eagles will have the assumption that it was him and not the coordinators that caused the problems.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. I mean, there's no excuses this year because now they've brought in two new coordinators who are universally regarded as high-level coordinators. They brought in, what's his face, Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, who did a bang-up job with the Cowboys and did his best with the Chargers last year. And Vic Fangio, whose defenses are always very stout. We saw what he did with the Dolphins last year. Now is the defensive coordinator. Those are two people who, honestly, you could see either of them taking over the top job if Sirianni gets the sack at the end of this season.
Yeah, with those two guys there, it's the pressure is on him and him alone. It's at this point, it's win or you're going the way of the other two guys,
Exactly.
The last two guys.
Yeah, you're following them. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And so let's move on briefly to Dennis Allen of the Saints. Now, I don't know if we have much to say about the Saints other than to say that what they're trying, what they're doing, what they've been doing is not working, unfortunately.
Yeah. What I know about the Saints is just, I mean, they've kind of been in cap hell for years.
Yeah, that's a big story.
And even outside of that, with the players that they have, with the tools that they can work with, they're not awful, but it's very stale.
Yes.
It's not exciting. No big flashes anywhere. It's just come in, clock in, lose.
I will give Chris Olave some credit. He's been doing. Okay. Doing. So thumbs up to Chris Olave. He's doing great.
Yes, that's fair. But the rest of the team, you've got good players there.
Yeah.
But they're not executing to their fullest extent. To the extent we've all seen them execute, and guys like Thomas and Kamara, we know that they can be a lot better than they are right now.
Yeah. And they're getting old now too.
Yeah, bringing in someone like Derek Carr, not really going to flip things around.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I mean, Derek Carr could have worked. It's just not working.
Yeah.
I think that he traded one suboptimal situation with the Raiders for another suboptimal situation with the post-Drew Brees cap hell Saints.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's his fault. I mean, I'm not saying it's not his fault, but I think he just went from one suboptimal situation to another. So
whose fault it is whoever was drawing up those contracts all those years.
Well,
honestly.
Clearly, yeah. They've got that GM in New Orleans who's been there forever. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's been there for so long. And so, yeah, it's just they're in a quagmire, which is, I think, very classic for the Louisiana Saints, the Louisiana-based Saints. They're very much in a quagmire. And there's no end in sight, really. And I think that Dennis Allen is probably another season like what they've been having. I think he's the easiest scapegoat to say, sorry, we're pinning it all on you. We're giving you the sack, and we'll bring in somebody else to reboot it. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And next up, we've got Robert Saleh of the Jets. Now, I think this just I really do think Saleh's a terrific coach. I really do. But the offense, it's just been one disaster after another for different reasons. Zach Wilson, let's be honest, we never bought into Zach Wilson. We never thought that was going to work.
No.
Well,
he is a certified MILF hunter, so.
But on the football field, we know he can score off the football field, but on the football field, yeah.
He was scoring somewhere on the football field. He was Polynesian Athlete of the Year at one point.
Yeah, no, he was. One time he won Polynesian of the Year, which we always find that to be endlessly funny, because it's just impossible to imagine a whiter man from Utah than Zach Wilson. But one time he won Polynesian of the Year. But yeah, I think Robert Saleh is a really a terrific defensive coach. But the offense, you have to get the offense right. If they have a healthy Aaron Rodgers for the entirety of this season, which is a big if, but if they have a healthy Aaron Rodgers for the entirety of this season, and the offense doesn't click with what they've got, then that's going to be a big problem. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, these guys are studs, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a healthy Aaron Rodgers the whole time and it doesn't click, that's going to be a big problem.
Coming into this, he's I wrote it down here somewhere. Yeah, coming into this, he has an 18-33 record in New York. So
it's rough.
And this year he's got Aaron Rodgers back, like you said, all those pieces, all those weapons. If he can't make it work with that, yeah.
And a defense which has continuously been great, because the defense has been great. We just need the offense now to click into place. We know he can do the defense, but he needs to show us that he can get the offense right now.
I know he can do the defense. The Jets are what started that skid last year for the Eagles. Zach Wilson.
And the problem with that is you still got Nat Hackett in there, because Nat Hackett is of course buddy with Aaron. So Aaron's not going to let Hackett get the sack, even though he probably deserves it.
Yeah.
And so that worries me a bit. Nat Hackett, can he really be the guy to lead the Jets offense out of one of the darkest periods in its history? And that's saying something, because they're mostly dark periods in its history. Just because his primary qualification is being golfing buddies with Aaron, I'm not sure I buy it. That's just me.
So, he'll either win or he'll be the fall man for a grossly incompetent coach. We'll see.
Exactly. And speaking of quarterback situations that have to work, Matt Eberflus of the Bears, right? I think his seat's got to be pretty warm. I think it has to be. Chicago has ingested a dangerous amount of hopium. They have so much hope.
Yes.
Caleb Williams coming in, first overall pick, God's gift of football. Everybody loves this guy. He's the new Trevor Lawrence. He's the Trevor Lawrence of now. Whereas Trevor Lawrence is still struggling to be the Trevor Lawrence of 3 years ago when he was drafted. Caleb Williams is that Trevor Lawrence of today. Everybody loves this guy, right? I don't think that there has been a more highly touted draft pick in Chicago, quite frankly, ever. Michael Jordan did not get this much hype when he was drafted in the early 80s than Caleb Williams is getting now, right? They've put so much hope on this kid to be the one to lead the Bears out of the darkness. And we know what that darkness has been, an endless string, very much Browns-esque, of failed and mediocre quarterbacks in the entire long and proud history of the Chicago Bears, 100-plus-year-old football team. They have never had a 4,000-yard or more passer in a single season. It has never happened in over 100 years.
That's just so unbelievable. quite
Yeah.
honestly. They never had that opportunity. They've
No.
won Super Bowls.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
did. Yeah.
but
In the
those were on.
80s when defense was name of the game.
Yeah, and
But
that's how they won it.
exactly.
Yeah, they just, I don't know, they just always struck out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not a stellar line of history there. I mean, going back Justin Fields and then Trubisky and all those guys.
Yeah, I
Long
mean,
suffering Bears fans, man.
it is not a good sign when the most prestigious quarterback of recent years for your team is um, what's his face, Jay Cutler.
I was gonna
That,
say,
that's not good. That's not a good sign.
no, it's
Um,
not.
and so
You want to be doing better than that.
exactly, and so they hope that Caleb Williams will be that promised one to come in and be the one to break through that barrier. But again, if it doesn't work with the pieces that they've got him, right? DJ Moore, we know he's great. They bring in Keenan Allen from the Chargers. They draft, also in the top 10 of the first round of the draft, Rome Odunze, who had a fantastic season last season with the Huskies. If he can't make it work with this, with what he's got, Eberflus is going to go. None of those guys are going to go. They need those guys. It's Eberflus who's going to go because remember, Eberflus was a defensive guy when he came in, defensive coordinator. So they're going to put it on him. He's going to be out.
I don't think I don't think his seat's too hot right now. But if it's not going well quick, I think it'll go 0 to 100.
Exactly.
Quick.
By Thanksgiving, if it's not working, it's going to be one of the hottest.
Yeah.
And finally, one more coach on the hot seat to broach here. Someone else that you also know very well and you have a lot of love for, Doug Peterson of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah. I don't think he should be as worried as some of these other folks here. He's got a bit of a more stable situation, and I do think he is a much better coach, and I think a lot of people would agree. He's got the record to prove it. It's just concerns with Jacksonville over the last couple of years not quite living up to expectations, particularly their quarterback not quite living up to expectations and not getting the records that they want to see. I don't think his seat's too hot right now, but if this season, if Trevor doesn't get back to, what was expected of him being the most hyped quarterback draftee of all time soon, they might start looking for a change in leadership there.
Yeah.
Try to get someone who can elevate him.
Agreed.
I don't think it's on Doug Peterson, but Jacksonville's front office could come to a different conclusion.
That is very true. I agree completely. I think that Doug Peterson, he should be feeling all right today. After all, he inherited an awful mess when he came in to take over the Jaguars as head coach.
That's true.
Urban Meyer, a historic disaster during his time as Jaguars head coach. I mean, literally historic disaster. Got fired barely 2/3 of the way into the season. It was utter wreckage when Doug Peterson came in, and he was a trusted pair of hands, someone that we know, someone that we trust, someone with a real pedigree, a Super Bowl winner, that they could bring in, hand over the keys to turn this thing around. And in his first year, he did turn it around. The Jaguars made the playoffs in Peterson's first year, won a playoff game in his first year. I know you remember that very well.
Oh, God. That was a truly you want to talk about truly historic collapses. We've been talking about the Eagles the whole time, but there's another truly historic collapse for you.
Yes. Another one that you were front and center for.
Oh, God. Why me, man? Why me?
And so he did a fantastic job inheriting that wreckage and turning it into something that looked like, and he showed us, this could really work. This could really work. But then again, last year, things got a bit shaky again. And it's a strange phenomenon with the Jaguars. Once every 5 years, they'll explode, and they'll almost make it to the Super Bowl, and they'll be awesome. And then for the rest of that 5-year span, it's very plotting, rebuilding, middling, plotting, rebuilding, middling, so on and so forth. And so we have to see, can Doug Peterson bring us back to what we saw last in 2022, or are we still going to be stuck in this cycle of nobody really knows what the Jaguars are? We need consistency now.
Yeah.
So if he can deliver that, then he's safe. He's not going anywhere. But we have to see that consistency, and we have to see a Trevor Lawrence that is much closer to the Trevor Lawrence that we all want to be sold on. We all want to be sold on that version of Trevor Lawrence. We just have to see that now. So consistency is the key.
The level of play needs to match the level of hairstyle on that guy soon.
Yes, I think so. So.
And also, in a scenario where destiny finds itself that Nick Sirianni is fired from the head coaching job, I hope Doug Peterson is fired that same year as well.
Oh, switcheroo.
Bring it back. Bring it back. I've missed him since the day he left. That was a horrible mistake on the Eagles' part. Imagine Doug Peterson with this current Eagles offense. God.
Oh, God. I mean, how good could that be, right?
It would be amazing.
And so that's what secretly that's what you're hoping for. You think this is a prime candidate for a switcheroo.
Eagles take the dive. Not even tanking for a draft pick. Tank for Doug.
Well, you know what? Okay, well, you heard it here first, folks. Bookmark this time. Jim is predicting a switcheroo for the end of this season. And you know what? I hope you're right. I hope it happens, honestly.
It would be great, wouldn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Peterson goes back to Philly. Sirianni goes to Jacksonville. Now we're cooking.
Now we're rolling.
Now, yeah, that is the switcheroo that we want to see. So.
All right. Well, is it time?
Yes. Would you like to move us along to part 2 of our digression here?
Yes. We're now going to address our predictions for the winner of each division.
Yes.
We're going to talk a little bit about each team in the division and give a final judgment. We'll rifle through these. There's a lot of divisions to get through, and then there's a lot of games to get through after that.
Yes.
So a little bit about each team, who we think has the best shot. I think we'll start here with the AFC East.
Yes.
Jonathan, what are you thinking about the AFC East?
Well, let's start with the Patriots, since we already talked a decent bit about the Patriots in part 1. It's a new day. It's a new regime. Brady's been gone. Now Belichick's gone too. It's Jared Mayo's show. And we've got Drake May in. We'll see when we get to see him. For right now, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. I think, this is a very, very, very low expectations season for the Patriots. I think it has to be. They had so much success for so long. Now, they're going to continue to be in the doghouse for a little bit, but with a way out, with a vision to getting out of the doghouse. But for now, they have to understand they're still very much in the doghouse. And so let's just see the beginning of the Jared Mayo culture. Let's see the beginnings of what Drake May can be. And, give it another good draft or two. See if you can attract some quality free agents, and you can get there. But it's a long road. And so I think that this now is going to be the beginning of the Patriots turning the page. It's going to be a long road to get back to where they want to be, but at least now they can see where they're going. At least now they can see that. So I do not expect the Patriots to be winning the division this year. But if you are a Patriots fan, there is at least some small legitimate cause for hope that not this year, but in 2-3 years down the road, could you be contenders again? Sure. If various things break your way. So that's my that's my report on the Patriots. What do you think?
I think, yeah, as you said, expectations are so low that they'd have to be truly dismal to not meet everyone's expectations this season. It's kind of probably liberating in a way for them. They've got nowhere to go but up, so they can. I feel like they have some more freedom to just kind of try stuff out, see what works, just throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks,
Yes, absolutely.
And this could be good for them, kind of like a sandbox season of sorts, to just figure out.
Yeah, just see what works, see where you're going.
See what works, see who they want to move forward with.
Absolutely. And so let's move on to the New York Jets. New York Jets, right? Aaron Rodgers, what the hell is going to happen? Last year,
I know what I want to happen.
Week 1, Monday Night Football at MetLife, right? It had been raining heavily the night before, as we saw, because the Giants were on Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys, where the Cowboys came in, and it's very painful for me to recall that game. Because the Cowboys came into MetLife on Sunday Night Football and shut us out and demolished us. I mean, it was very painful to watch. We had so much hope. We made the playoffs last year, 2022. We won against the Vikings in the playoffs. So we had so much hope that we could bypass the painful rebuilding and just get right back into contention status. And then the Cowboys came in and just wrecked our shit completely. So that was very painful. But anyway, that's not the point. We're going to get to the Giants, I promise. But it was raining very heavily during that game. Mm-hmm. The Jets were playing at home the very next day. And it happened to also be 9/11, Monday Night Football on 9/11. Aaron Rodgers comes out holding a giant American flag. He runs out. It was an incredibly hype-filled moment. He's running out with that flag. You remember how, and he had the spotlight on him when he was running with that flag. You remember that? And
I thought it was a little. How do I say this? I don't know. I wasn't buying it.
Sure.
I wasn't feeling too inspired by it, just knowing the type of person Aaron Rodgers is.
Oh,
I don't want him as the guy representing America.
well, perhaps not. But it was certainly a very powerful image, right? Aaron Rodgers, the biggest story of the offseason. For so many years, we were wondering, where is he going to go? Where is he going to go? Is he going to move on from Green Bay? What's Aaron going to do? He finally moves on from Green Bay. They make a deal happen with the Jets. Biggest story of the offseason. All we could talk about all offseason. The Jets were featured on Hard Knocks, for Christ's sakes, just on the strength of Aaron Rodgers being there. He runs out with a giant spotlight on him, carrying this flag, running out onto the field on 9/11. 8 plays later.
Very dramatic, theatrical.
Very dramatic, very theatrical, a very powerful image, on Monday Night Football. And then 8 plays later, what happens? Exactly. Insert comic snapping sound here. And that was it. That was the Jets 2023 season right there. That was 8 plays.
Had he thrown a football yet? Had he successfully thrown a football to a receiver?
Maybe once.
I don't think he had a reception. I mean, I don't think he had a
I don't think so.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know. And so it was their whole season gone, just like that. It was gone. Dead.
If you wanted to make a documentary about the New York Jets, you could just play that sequence.
Well, I mean, really, that was for me, that's such a perfect encapsulation about what I always say about the Jets. God hates the Jets. You could not have produced a more comically fulfilling way to kill the Jets season than what happened. So much hype, so much anticipation. That entrance, 8 plays.
God hates the secondary, any of the secondary teams of New York City.
Yeah.
He anytime he hears a Giants, anytime he hears a Jets or a Mets fan have a little bit of happiness in their heart.
In fact, it's very funny when you say it like that, because the Jets, the Mets, and the Nets
Yeah.
all rhyme. The Jets, Mets, and Nets. They all rhyme. How funny is that?
They're all the secondary team. Do they do that on purpose?
I wish they did. I don't
Oh,
think
the
so.
Nets thing's just a coincidence because they
Yeah.
moved there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Giants, the Jets, and the Nets.
You noticed me kind of tripping up trying to say it for a second. Because like, wait.
Oh no, I see. Even I misspoke. It's the Jets, the Mets, and the Nets. There you go. The Jets.
Wait, what did you
Mets,
say?
I said the Giants, the Jets, and the Mets. I said.
Oh yeah, it's hard, man.
Yeah, it's the Jets, the Mets, and the Nets. But anyway.
God doesn't even want to let you say it.
Yeah, you can't even say it properly. But yeah, we just talked a bit about Robert Sala's situation. It has to work this year with Aaron. I mean, God knows Aaron is not getting any younger. I mean, you look at photos of Aaron outside of his football helmet. He looks like a man. He looks like what Brett Favre looks like now. He looks like a man in his late 50s now. You know, I guess that's just the fate of all former Packers starting quarterbacks. But yeah, he's not getting any younger. He's not getting any more versatile in his ability to withstand an entire football season. So it has to work.
Yeah. And I don't think it's going to, quite frankly.
It's a huge gamble.
Aaron Rodgers, I think he's done. I think his prime is behind him. He's deranged now. He's literally insane. You just take one look at him and you clock him as like the kind of like alcoholic dad to refer to his spouse as my bitch wife or the old ball and chain.
Yeah, well, like I said, he looks like what Brett Favre looks like now, which is so funny to me.
He is. I think he's not there anymore, and they have so much riding on him that while they do have all these other incredible players, I think they're going to put too much stock in Aaron Rodgers. Too much of their season, their game plans, their scripts are going to rely on him, and if that doesn't work out, which, I mean, I don't think anyone will be surprised if it doesn't. I mean, he's starting to venture into territory that only one man has gone into before and pulled off multiple Super Bowl wins in the past. Other people have gotten that far, but the kind of success they're expecting out of Aaron Rodgers at this point of his life is the kind of success that only one guy has achieved at that point.
Yeah, and I want to say this too, which is that there are as you said, there's a very select few people like a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady who can defy time. That's hard enough, defying the clock. You know, only a couple quarterbacks have done that. But you know what no quarterback has done? Has turned back the clock. Defying the clock is one thing, but turning it back, that I don't think has ever been done. You know?
Yeah.
It's just not possible. And I don't think this Aaron Rodgers is going to be the one to change that rule.
And none of them have done it with a cursed team like the Jets either. So
exactly. So yeah, the Jets, they're placing this season is a huge gamble for them, a huge gamble, and there's no telling if it'll pay off. It might pay off, but is that the bet that I'm willing to make? No, it is not. It might pay off. I don't think it will. So we'll see. At the very least, no matter what happens, it'll be very interesting, I think, to see what becomes of them. So we will certainly stay tuned to that. But let's talk a little bit about the Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniel, right? When he came in, we all called him a pimple-specked, glasses-wearing nerd, right? The ultimate Shanahan acolyte, right? We were saying, what is this nerd going to do to turn around the Miami Dolphins? Is he capable? We know he's smart. We know he's the ultimate book smart Shanahan acolyte. But will he be a leader of men? Specs over here. And what he has done in Miami, I think we really got to give him a lot of credit for what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy who came in, his number one job, his very first job was to rebuild Tua's confidence. Tua was drafted very highly by the Dolphins, very highly touted draft pick down here. A lot of hope on him. But for his first couple of years, he had Brian Flores, someone who just was like a wrecking ball, took a wrecking ball to his confidence, was constantly bemoaning his mistakes, constantly bemoaning what he wished Tua would be instead of emphasizing what Tua was. And then instead of that, was trying to bring in Deshaun Watson to replace Tua, which was just awful. I mean, even when Deshaun was in the depths of the scandal that was surrounding him, which at that time was still subject to police inquiry, he was trying to bring Deshaun to Miami to replace Tua. Shameful. Shameful, I say. And so Brian Flores got the boot. They bring in Mike McDaniel. His first job was to rebuild Tua's confidence. And not only did he rebuild Tua's confidence, but he rebuilt Tua's confidence, instilled him as a bona fide, and I will fight on this hill all day, a bona fide, very good starting quarterback in this league. I'm not saying great, but I am saying very good, who can be the center point of the other thing, Mike McDaniel's second job, building the most high-flying, high-octane offense in this league. And that's what he did, thanks to also bringing in Tyreek Hill, and what we're starting to see with the rookie breakout running back, Devon Achane, the A-Train, as I and others like to call him. What he has done is demonstrated that he's far from being just a book-smart nerd who can draw up plays. He is a leader of men. This team, the Dolphins, they love him. Miami loves him. And I think football fans everywhere should love him because what he's built in Miami is extremely impressive and extremely entertaining. That's the most important thing. And so what they've got cooking down here is extremely exciting. Now, the only caveat that we have to add to that is Miami does have an extremely exciting, extremely entertaining, high-flying, high-octane offense, but it only works at its best when they're playing at home in Miami. When they're playing on the road, it's a bit more 50-50 whether it's going to work as well there. But at home, forget about it. They're fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, we look at last season, and up until that Week 18 game, well, before that Week 18 game against the Bills, they were leading the division. Yes. They dropped down to the wild card at the last second.
Yeah. And imagine how different it could have been if they had a home playoff game in Miami instead of at Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. That could have been all the difference in the world, honestly.
Or pardon me, at Kansas City, rather.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, at Kansas City, where it was like literally negative 15 degrees. Yep. The Dolphins went up there and got chopped up and flash frozen in the frozen Arrowhead tundra.
Patrick Mahomes' helmet doing like literally the thing that happens in a cartoon when somebody freezes and then you hit them and then they shatter.
Exactly.
I didn't know that was a real thing that happens, but apparently it is.
And so imagine what could have happened instead of sending these Dolphins to the negative 15 degrees of Kansas City if they had hosted Buffalo at home in Miami in January. Yeah. Imagine how different that could have been. Imagine how different.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, the onus on Miami is to stay healthy with all their big pieces, keep Achane and if they keep Achane and Waddle and Tyreek in for the whole season, they can go really far. They can go AFC Championship far.
Absolutely.
They have an exciting offense. It seems like an offense people struggled to figure out how to stop.
Yeah.
Denver certainly didn't know how to do it.
Speed everywhere.
It's it's difficult to deal with without your defense being built specifically to stop that,
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's safe to say, and I'm curious to get your take on this. Mike McDaniel Mike McDaniels has surpassed everyone's expectations.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's been fantastic.
And he's this doesn't really count for them. This doesn't really. I know no head coach is thinking about this or caring about this, but he's made the Dolphins probably the most exciting team to watch on TV.
Absolutely. And so I want to offer a huge tip of the cap to him. He rebuilt Tua's confidence, built an incredible offense, and most importantly, gave the Dolphins a winning culture. That's what they've needed for years, to instill a winning culture in the Miami Dolphins. He's done that. They love him. They believe in him. They fight for him. And like I said, it's while my Giants struggle, it's so nice to have the Dolphins to fall back on because they're a great story, a story that I really love, and just a great story to follow. And so, very exciting stuff happening down here, as you know.
Give a hand to that unassuming little twink.
I know, right? Maybe the glasses are his superpower. Maybe he's got one of those Tony Stark, the glasses from Spider-Man.
The glasses with the things that flip down.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so
Chris Jones is winded. Quick.
Yeah, well, whatever he's doing, he should keep doing it. Hey, we know he vapes. He's a cool guy. He vapes on the sideline.
That's not cool. It's not cool to do that. I think our podcast should take a hard line against that.
Yeah, we do not endorse tobacco use on observation conversations, except when the right people do it.
Where is my vape, by the way? Well, anyways.
Yes. And so let's wrap up the AFC East with the Buffalo Bills, right? Did you want to start us off on the Buffalo Bills?
It must be heartbreaking to be a Buffalo Bills fan because every year they give you hope.
Yes.
Every year in the Josh Allen era, they give you hope, which makes the loss just so much harder. When you know your team's bad, it doesn't hurt when Week 18 ends and your team's not in the playoffs. It doesn't hurt because you expected it. You have the we'll get them next year mentality. But every year with Buffalo, I should charge my laptop. Every year with Buffalo, they do so well. They give you so much hope. They almost get there. Something happens, and that something is always Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes happens, and then they're back in the offseason, and then they lose people, and then every year it looks harder and harder for them to get back where they were. And every year they almost get back to where they were, and then they fall short again.
Yes.
They do really well, and then they fuck it up. And then they lose some people, and then it looks like, oh God, can the Bills do it this year? And then they do it again, and they fuck it up.
Yeah. The Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott. All right, let's talk about Sean McDermott. Back-to-back-to-back division winner, defensive guru, and the only head coach to actually host his team's training camp in the mountains of Pakistan. So,
What? Oh, okay. No, I get it.
You see what I'm saying with that?
No, I bought into that for a second. That's unconventional coaching, but if it works, it works.
Yeah, no, and so so all of those things that I just said are true about Sean McDermott, as you said, every year, no matter how good they've looked, Patrick Mahomes shows up and rains on their parade every single time. And honestly, I'm worried about the Bills this year because I feel like their absolute best chance to finally overcome the Chiefs was last year in the playoffs. They got the Chiefs at home. They didn't go to Arrowhead this time. They got the Chiefs at home in their house. And it just did not break their way. And I feel like having that happen, I feel like that probably broke the back of a lot of people's hope in the Bills being able to overcome the Chiefs. I think we've seen some big departures in the offseason. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is now elsewhere. Gabe Davis is now elsewhere. They've had a lot of departures in the defense, particularly the secondary. That secondary is not going to be what it used to be. Their best chance to overcome the Chiefs was last year. I feel like they had them at home.
Technically, Milano's still there, but he hasn't played recently, and he won't be playing anytime soon either.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so they had them at home. They couldn't close the deal. And now a lot of pieces have now gone and left for greener pastures.
But I feel like we were saying that last year, too. Last offseason.
We're really saying it this year. I mean, last year, yeah, they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, but they lost to them at Arrowhead. I feel like it's even worse when you lose to them at home. Because, again, I think their best chance was last year, and they just missed it. And so, yeah, now people are gone. They're not rebuilding. They're still contenders, but it's not like how it was. So
at this point, I think they're only, ignoring who wins the division, their only path to a Super Bowl has to be a postseason, a playoffs path that somehow does not include Patrick Mahomes.
Trusting someone else to do what they couldn't do, which is knock the Chiefs out.
They can't do it. Josh Allen can't do it. I'm sorry. He's a great quarterback, but he can't do it. Somebody else is going to have to take the blunt force of Mahomes before them.
Yes, absolutely. And so, all right, those are all of the AFC East teams. Who are we writing in for our winners?
I'm going to give it to.
And if you wouldn't mind being our designated typist for this.
Yes. I'm going to give it to a team that hasn't had it in 15 seasons. The Miami Dolphins.
Well, I have to say, after all of those, I mean, like I said, could the Jets thing work? Possibly. Could the Bills do it again despite having lost some key people? Possibly. But after all of those wonderfully nice things I just said about the Dolphins, I don't see how I could possibly not give it to them. You know, I feel like the Dolphins are the most soundly constructed team in this division this year. There are still going to be some roadblocks. Certainly going to the Jets, going to Buffalo is still going to be a challenge. But at the same time, the Jets have to come to Miami. The Bills have to come to Miami. And I feel very good about that. And certainly any out-of-division teams coming into Miami, we know what happens to them. And I know they also have a couple of games in domes this year. I believe they're going to SoFi this year. I think are they going to Vegas this year as well? So they've got a few dome games to look forward to this year as well.
Do they have an international game?
I'm not sure about that.
Well, you keep going. I'll check into that.
And so, well, that's it really. Just to say that, for all of those reasons, between playing in Miami and playing in domes, I feel very good about the Dolphins. I just said a ton of really nice things about them. I'll be rooting for them. I believe in them. I'll be watching them, and I'm picking them for the AFC East.
Well, then we are in agreement. Excellent. Let's quickly move on to the AFC South.
Yes. This should I think be a little bit more brief.
Maybe. This is the division I was most conflicted on, actually.
Oh yes. Well, how about we start with the Tennessee Titans. King Henry is gone. He's flown the coop and is now the king. Now reigns in the land of Maryland. Reigns in the land of Maryland.
Yes, there we go.
There you go. And now what they have is a new coach, by the way. We should talk about this. Mike Vrabel, someone who I think we had a lot of respect for on defense at least, but someone who, like Robert Saleh, got the defense right, never could quite get the offense right. And ultimately that cost him his job. They replaced him with Brian Callahan, who I think they have, who I do like, by the way. He's an offensive guy from the Cincinnati Bengals, their offensive coordinator coming in. And I think that bringing in a very much offensive-minded head coach is exactly what the Titans need, is exactly the vibe shift the Titans need going into this season. I think they've been very heavy on defense for a long time. I think this is exactly the vibe shift they need to start to join the rest of the modern NFL. And get the best out of Will Levis, Mr. Mayonnaise. Do you like Mr. Mayonnaise?
Well, that story kind of creeps me out, but I think he is an interesting player. What he has on his side is he doesn't have round one draft pick expectations on him, so he's got time to figure stuff out. I don't know. I don't know too much about him, quite honestly. I didn't catch a lot of Tennessee Titans games last season.
Yeah, nobody did. Yeah. They were not on primetime, I can tell you that.
I watched one Titans game, and that was when they beat the Chargers. And that's about it. But I did not see him play in that, so.
Yeah, and also, how do you feel about the vibe shift from Vrabel to Callahan?
We'll have to see. I don't know that much about Callahan. I always liked Mike Vrabel, and it surprised me to go look up and actually see what his actual record. That his record was 13-21 the past two seasons. Because honestly, I thought he had been doing a bit better than that. I've always thought of him as a much better coach, but I don't know. I think Tennessee will have a slight improvement this year, but they're not going to be shocking anybody.
I say, yeah. So agreed. I don't think they're going to shock anybody, but I do think that they're on the right path. I think they're on the right path now to get the absolute best out of whatever they've got. I think that they're going to get the best out of them. So
unfortunately, if they're rebuilding to be competitive in a couple years, they're in the division that might be the hardest to be competitive in a couple years. This is quite an up and coming division. They got to be worried.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, how about
these guys have to have somebody to beat up on?
Yes, well, certainly. And so, how about the Jacksonville Jaguars? How are we feeling about the Jaguars? We talked a little bit about them already when we talked about Doug Peterson.
Well, I think they made a very prudent decision in adding Mac Jones to their roster. Did you know about that?
I legitimately think that Mac Jones was just crushed by his time in New England. I think he'll be a very fine backup in Jacksonville. I really do.
We'll see about that. I'm not so sure I have an equal amount of confidence in you there.
Well, he's a backup in this league. What do you want, honestly?
That's true. I know that they lost Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones, so I'm now wondering who their receivers are. Gabe Davis.
Oh, they've got Gabe Davis, and they did draft what's his name? Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round of the draft, who was also on that fantastic LSU team, Jaden Daniels LSU team.
And Duvernay too?
I guess so. If that's what you're seeing. So they have got some new blood in to replace those who left.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like if we're trying to build up Trevor's confidence and bring him back into the quarterback we all want him to be, I feel like he's going to need bigger weapons than that. But we'll see. Well, getting rid of Calvin Ridley and adding somebody, I don't think any of these guys are on his caliber. Gabe Davis is good for a couple monster games and then several more duds. The way he's been playing.
I think he'll have a bigger role in Jacksonville. Role in Jacksonville. So.
He's got a different receiving style than a lot of the wide receiver ones in the league, though. He's been used. He's been used in more so gadget roles than WR1 roles. So we'll
Well,
have to
I
see.
mean, also that position is already full. Christian Kirk is still there, so I mean, let's not forget about him.
He's always bored me, Christian Kirk.
I mean, sure, maybe a bit boring, but he's reliable. He's pretty good.
I guess so.
Yeah, so Christian Kirk will continue to carry the flag, aided by Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis.
Well, I do have a lot of confidence in Peterson to continue to build up this team. I could. I'm going to say this right now. I'm not going to award them division, but I could see if it goes well for Lawrence and Peterson. I could see this team being one of the more fringe wildcard candidates this season.
I agree. I mean, yeah, all I have to add to that is, as I said earlier, consistency. We know what the Jaguars can be capable of. We know they can be capable of great things. We just need to see that executed on a consistent basis. If we can see that, if we can see a decent to good to high level of quality on a consistent basis, we will know that Doug Peterson has truly transformed the culture of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know,
what they need more than consistency is a decent O-line. Actually, now that I think about it, didn't he get sacked like 35 or 40 times last year?
It was pretty bad. And so that's very important too. But we know what Doug EP can do with the Jaguars. We saw it in 2022. If he can bring that back, and I think he has enough pieces in place to potentially bring that back, there will be no problems. So consistency is key.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right. So how about the Indianapolis Colts? Now, you've been watching the Colts, haven't you? I know you've been paying attention to Anthony Richardson.
I'm starting to get the impression that I'm higher on the Colts than I thought a lot of other people would be. I think they have a very well-constructed team there. They've got who I think is a pretty good head coach over there. They brought in the perhaps most successful backup quarterback of last season in Joe Flacco.
That's true.
Which is pretty exciting if Richardson gets injured early again. I would love to see another Flacco run.
Sure.
A late career Flacco run. But
I hope it doesn't come at the cost of Richardson though, because we all want to see Richardson.
Obviously, for sure. But if it has to happen, I'm glad Flacco is there. Because there are question marks with Richardson in that his style of play, can his body withstand it? We need to make sure that is the case. But I mean, like I said, very well constructed team. They've got Michael Pittman, they've got Josh Downs, they've got Jonathan Taylor. You know, Anthony Richardson shows a lot of potential. I mean, he looks like he could be incredible. I mean, I'm betting on it, certainly. I drafted him in fantasy when I had the opportunity to take Jalen Hurts. But their defense, from what I understand, needs some work. They didn't really add a lot to it. But I think on the strength of Richardson and his weapons, I think they can go pretty far, and I think they can give Houston a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add that you didn't just say. There's potential there. I think there's ample potential there. I think, Jonathan Taylor, when he's all in, can be very strong. Just Anthony Richardson. Let's see what he can do. We got a small taste of what he could do last year, but then it was cut short. I think I speak for football fans everywhere when we say we're very interested to see just what the Colts have got with Anthony Richardson. So we want to see that, and we wish them all the best, certainly. And then, yeah, I think you said everything pretty much. Let's see what they've got. There's potential there. And let's see it's tough division, certainly tough division, but let's see what happens. Now, here's a question. What do you think about the Indiana Knights alternate uniform that they have? Because you've been a critic.
Oh, you know what I think about that. It is so low effort. And I don't think it works at all with their uniform. It's just going on, taking the graphics map for the helmet, loading up Photoshop, probably not even, loading up paint.net.
Paint.net.
Taking the paint bucket tool, going to the main helmet and just clicking make it black. Okay, we have ourselves an alternate uniform.
Yeah. Which
the trend of everyone's alternate uniform just being the exact same uniform, but just now it's black, so it's like ooh. It's way overdone, and it does not look. I don't think it looks good at all in the Colts case.
Yeah.
The blue is too dark for that uniform that it kind of just blends in. They would need to use a brighter blue for that, I think, or just ditch the blue altogether. And as you said, they debuted that uniform at 1 p.m.
Yes, they did.
Not only is the entire notion of those famous Indianapolis Knights so laughable. What does that even? What does that?
Yeah. What does that mean?
What does an Indianapolis Knight consist of? Denny's?
That's about getting unlimited appetizers at Applebee's is pretty much
the Golden Corral. Yeah.
Yeah, as exciting as Indiana Knights typically get, as far as I know.
Maybe
outside
this is
of March Madness.
Maybe this is my coastal elitism talking, but
yeah.
the idea of having an Indianapolis Knight, that doesn't entice me. I'm not interested.
March Madness is an exception, but they're not playing football in March, so that doesn't count.
No.
Yeah.
And you're certainly not enjoying your Indianapolis night at 1 p.m. in Lucas Oil. So.
Right. Exactly. So. I will say I definitely do like it. I mean, I'm not saying just make the uniforms black and don't do anything else with it, but I do like the black look. I usually think that the black look, for me, is almost always at least a marginal improvement over the standard, just because I really like that look. Is it a little... At least that might make some difference. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna start using this as a hold some signal from now on. You should probably start that sentence again because you cut out the entire time.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that, is it a little lazy? Sure, it's a little lazy. But I do think that the black uniform look is one that really appeals to me. I usually think that it's at least a marginal improvement over the standard. I think they just need to use them during an actual primetime game. It just looks so stupid when you're wearing those uniforms during an early afternoon game. I think if it's going to work at all, it has to be during primetime. But anyway, let's move ahead to what we have to talk about here, which is the Houston Texans. Wow. What a difference a year can make. Can we just say that? I just want to say that. What a difference a year can make. My God.
One of the most remarkable worst to first teams in my memory, certainly.
I mean, it's awesome what they've done. I never thought I would hear myself say this about the Houston Texans, but what they accomplished in one season and one off season was awesome. It just shows you the incredible power of getting the quarterback right and getting the coach right. If those two pieces are right, and I mean really right, all doors open to you. Every single door can open if you get those two pieces right. Yep. And boy, did the Texans get those two pieces right. It's incredible what they did last year.
I mean, CJ in a lot of those games looked completely unstoppable. I mean, do you remember who it was against that one like 500-yard game almost the
I think it
rookie.
was the Buccaneers, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching that game, just floored the entire time. I,
Yeah.
I I think I was even missing a Chargers game for it. I wasn't even watching that. I had
Yeah,
full screen that game because it
we
was
all
just so.
turned over to that. I did the same
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
because I mean, my team is one thing, but this guy's doing something insane on
Yeah.
on a random afternoon. He's just going insane.
Yeah.
Uh,
He broke all the rookie quarterback records that game. All of them.
mhm. He has the potential to be incredible. I mean, I'm very, very excited to see what he does this season. I'm going to be, I'll tell you this, we're going to talk about our picks later. Houston, Indianapolis, that's the game I'm going to be focusing in on the most, for sure.
Yeah, we've definitely got to get to that. Yeah, what
And
happened?
and by the way, I think Houston's only gotten better this season. They
Absolutely.
they lost a Singletary, but they added Joe Mixon. On defense, they lost
Upgrade.
they lost what?
I was just saying upgrade. Yeah.
On defense, they lost Denzel Perryman, but they had Daniil Hunter over there.
Upgrade.
Upgrade. I mean, it's only been up. I mean, they
And
have the money to work with because all these guys are brand new.
yeah, and also arguably the biggest of all, Stephon Diggs coming
Oh yeah,
down from Buffalo.
how could I forget?
Huge. Yeah, that's absolutely huge. And
They
so
Dalton Schultz, they re-signed him.
yeah, got him back in. Yeah.
They had the money to spare, so why not?
Tank Dell coming back in. I mean, what he did last season with CJ was fantastic before he got hurt. Now
If he
he's
can
back.
stay, yeah, if he can stay healthy for an entire season, I would love to see the what their how their relationship ends up working out.
I mean, you could just tell those two had a connection. Those two really like each other.
But even without Tank Dell, I mean, he gets along with Nico quite well too. I gotta say.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it really seems like it's one big happy family over there, and that's
you
that's really special.
I have Diggs too.
Yeah. I mean, it really is special what they're building over there. It really is. I mean, they've got so many bold-faced names, so many playmakers, and there's no drama, no tension. You know, at least not yet. Well, I guess we'll see. But there's been no drama. You know, no stress. It's like one big happy Houston family over there. It's incredible.
And I would say, like, the way this team is made up. I mean, you could see this as a dark horse Super Bowl candidate, but I don't even think you can say dark horse anymore.
I wouldn't say dark horse.
Everyone knows about him now. The hype's there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say dark horse. I mean, D'Amico Ryans has just been fantastic. I mean, just the perfect bolt of electricity at head coach that team needed. And then what C.J. Stroud has done, what C.J. Stroud did last year was nothing short of Luke Skywalker-esque. That's the only way that I can think to describe it. What C.J. Stroud did last year was nothing short of Luke Skywalker-esque. He is the chosen one. He showed us that time and time again. That's why I always referred to him as the chosen one. Because what he showed us time and time again last year, again, a Texans team that was in the fucking pits the year before, a laughingstock, he came in and now they're world beaters. You know? It's unbelievable.
Why is it always the AFC that's getting these kind of quarterbacks? I swear, the past 5-10 years.
Yeah, I mean, just talk about going from the incredibly bad vibes of Deshaun Watson to the incredibly good vibes of CJ. What a turnaround that is.
Houston did the morally correct thing, and the karma rewarded them so heavily for it.
I mean, I'm going to ask you this question now. Speaking of vibe shifts, can you imagine a bigger vibe shift than that? Going from Deshaun Watson to C.J. Stroud, that's the biggest vibe shift there is, wouldn't you say?
I mean, it would just, you wouldn't want to root for him, no matter how much you like the receivers.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to root for them. He wouldn't even be there. He'd probably still be injured anyway. Injured or suspended, injured, suspended, injured, suspended. And yeah, I mean, this is the biggest like vibe upgrade
exactly.
that I've ever seen.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable, and they've only gotten better this offseason.
The universe rewarded them for doing the right thing.
Absolutely, and they have continued to do the right thing. And they've only gotten better this offseason, and so we have to just come out and say it. AFC South, let's just say it right now. The Houston Texans.
Coming in, when I woke up this morning, I thought I was going to make a break from you here and say the Colts, but I think you fired me up enough. I'm going to roll with you and say Houston.
Have to do it.
After really buckling down and looking at all these factors, I think the Colts can be good, but Houston's on another level. Houston is orbital.
Absolutely. I mean, there is no limit to what they could do. I mean, honestly, the Super Bowl is so easy to imagine for them. It is not difficult to imagine at all. I think they want it. I think they're capable of it, and they're going full speed ahead. They really are. So, Texans for me.
We move on now to, let's see,
AFC North.
AFC North. And your thoughts on the AFC North? We got to see one of them last night.
Yes, we did. So let's talk a little bit about. Let's start with the Ravens. I mean, since we did just see them in the kickoff game, we know the Ravens are a very strong regular season team. I mean, reliably, that's what they've been time and time again. Lamar is awesome. I mean, just period, end of. He's awesome. And now they've got a king. And now they've got a king in King Henry, who now reigns in Baltimore.
Who they didn't seem to want him to participate last night too much, but
yeah,
I mean, we'll see how that goes going forward. Yeah.
We'll see a lot more of him. I have no doubt about that. And Zay Flowers, too, by the way. Zay Flowers had a terrific rookie campaign last year. He's back. He's looking great. Mark Andrews, healthy again. We'll see if he can hold up. But even if he can't, Isaiah Likely is there waiting in the wings, ready to go. I mean, he's fired up and he's ready.
I mean, probably the most standout performance in the game of a lot of standout performances last night.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And so the only thing that gives me even the slightest pause is what's his name here? Mike McDonald, who coached one hell of a defensive unit last year. I mean, the Ravens defense just slapped everybody last year. He's now the head coach of Seattle. A great hire for Seattle, if you ask me. So we'll have to see how their new coordinator, a guy named Zach Orr, I think, or something like that, does. But apparently he's been really strong so far in camp. But yeah, a great regular season team. There's no doubt about that. They have all the ingredients still in place, I feel like. So very strong. Very strong. And they, unlike the Bills, who are now fading, they are desperate. They are chomping at the bit for their revenge against the Chiefs. They want it bad. They want to come back bad. In Baltimore or in Arrowhead, they don't care. They want to come back to the Chiefs and pay them back for what they did. Buffalo's star is fading. Baltimore is arising.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I would argue, very arguably, the number 2 in the entire conference. So, yeah, Baltimore, very strong all around. They want it. They can have it. They've got the pieces in place, the ingredients to make it happen. There's no doubt they're going to be making it to the playoffs. Let's just see what happens in the playoffs. That's the big question.
Yeah. They can win in the regular season, but it comes down to, I love Lamar. I think he's an incredible player, but it comes down to Lamar winning in those close matchups at the end of the game, because he seems to have a problem with that. When the game comes down to the wire and he's the last one holding the ball, issues sometimes seem to arise.
Yeah. But to be clear, we love the Ravens. Definitely a high respect.
Yes, they've got a lot of talent there.
Yeah.
They lost they lost their whole running back room from last year, which was a decent, very good running back room. But that's completely offset by the fact now they have Derrick Henry. So.
Right.
And the other guy, what was his name? Justice
Hill.
Justice Hill. He was doing pretty decent last night too, from what I saw. So
he was. He absolutely was. And so let's turn our gaze a bit west to Pittsburgh.
Oh, and I would say Tucker is automatic, but
yeah, well, he missed one last night, so that was too bad. But he's still. I mean, nobody has any doubts about Justin Tucker. He'll come back. I mean, that was his first kick of the season, wasn't it? So.
Mm-hmm. Only kicker in the NFL right now to have missed an over 40-yard field goal. So.
Yeah, man, that is true. And so yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh dear. It seems to me that they've perhaps traded one disaster, Matt Canada, for another, Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson. Kenny Pickett.
Did you hear the news today?
Was there news?
About Russell Wilson.
What happened?
He is now heavily questionable to play week 1.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so... Well, we'll address that later because I'm sure we want to talk about the quarterback situation here.
Well, we already talked about it a bit yesterday during part 1 of this episode. So just to say, I have a lot of questions about the Steelers. I, at this moment, don't have a ton of faith in the Steelers. I think they have a lot to prove. Yes, Mike Tomlin doesn't have losing seasons, but in recent years, it's been very marginal. 9-8, 10-7, not technically losing seasons, but they have been very marginal. I have not feared the Steelers for a long time, honestly. Not since at least Big Ben left. So, I think that they've traded a lot of questions for more questions. I think they still have some problems that, quite frankly, they're in denial about in a lot of ways. So yeah, we'll see. I don't have a ton of faith in them at this time, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I could be wrong. Honestly, right now, I have more faith in the Jets and what they've got going on than I do in the Steelers. I really do.
Wow.
I really do.
And I know a lot of people have confidence in the Jets, but knowing the feelings I know you have about the Jets both this year and that's surprising.
Yeah. It's true, yeah. And so that really is how I feel about the Steelers this year. So
I think the biggest downside for the Steelers right now is their offensive coordinator hire. Arthur Smith, the FedEx scion, who is certainly a self-made man. No question about that. I think that's the biggest downside there. That and the question about quarterback. But I think the question about quarterback can also be a very decent benefit to them if it shakes out correctly. They have an incredibly good backup plan. I mean, like I said earlier, their quarterbacks are, I think, pretty much at the same level or value at this point. And I think I'm a lot higher on the Steelers than you, quite frankly, it's sounding like, because I'm thinking of this in the way that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, as you said. Of course, that can translate to just meddling seasons, but he's been successful in the past. He's a good head coach. Don't get us wrong.
He has won a ring. That is true. But so is Mike McCarthy. So,
I think Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are a good team in the running back room. TJ Watt is elite, awesome. Completely elite.
Yeah.
Freiermuth looks good. Let's see. Who else do they have? Yeah, Minka Fitzpatrick. He's great. Their defense is pretty stacked with a lot of stars. Sure. And I think George Pickens is going to have, I'm betting fantasy-wise that George Pickens is going to have a breakout season. So
Awesome.
I have a decent amount of confidence in the Steelers. I hate the Steelers. I don't care for any team that will prop up people like Roethlisberger or Watson, but I think they have a good shot at making it pretty far. And
Yeah.
I so desperately want to see, I don't know why. I don't know why I have this sort of parasocial relationship with Justin Fields, but I so desperately want to see him do well for some reason. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I traded for him in a Madden franchise and he got me a ring. So I just so desperately want to see him do that in real life.
Yeah. No, I think Russell Wilson. I think as much as it pains me to say it, for all the respect that I have for what he used to be, Russell Wilson's day is done. We all want to see Justin Fields have some measure of success. I also really like George Pickens, so my doubts don't extend to him. I think George Pickens does have a bright future. But yeah, I just have a lot of concerns. Obviously, TJ Watt is awesome. We love him. But yeah, I still think there's a lot of questions. I don't have a ton of faith in them this year.
Also, some decent pickups. They lost Deontay Johnson, but I think Cordarrelle Patterson as a number 3, if either of the first two go down in the running back room, that could be pretty good. Van Jefferson, I think he's got some potential. Patrick Queen, some good pickups here.
Yeah, and so let's now continue on west, talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. And, we've got Joe Burrow back. He was out for a good stretch of time there at the end of the season last year, got hurt. Now he's back. But there's a problem. Jamar Chase is not happy. He's not a happy camper. It's time for him to get his big boy contract. He's been waiting for his big boy contract. And he
deserves it.
He deserves his big boy contract. And just earlier today, this is a quote that I did see, Jamar said he's not looking to beat out Justin Jefferson's contract by a little bit. He's not trying to beat him out by a couple of bucks. No, he wants to beat the shit out of Justin Jefferson's contract. He wants to beat the shit out of it. He's going big. He deserves the big money, but that is going to put the Bengals in a rather tough position. Because the Bengals know they don't have a ton of leverage here. They're not going to let Jamar Chase walk. They need him, and he knows it. Jamar and his camp know the Bengals have no choice ultimately but to pay them at or very close to exactly what they're asking for. But that is going to put them in a bit of a bind with the cap, because that's going to be a huge contract. Again, they're going to beat the shit out of Justin Jefferson's contract, and JJ's contract was huge. We just saw the contract that they gave him. It was massive. So,
well, one could argue, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have a great relationship.
Fantastic, yeah.
One could argue, if that takes up the whole cap space, that's all you need. Well, if they can both stay healthy.
It's most of what you need, but sadly, even a great quarterback-wide receiver connection isn't quite all you need. It's close to all you need, but it's not quite all you need.
Offensive weapon-wise, you don't need to go out and sign any other wide receivers. You can probably play it cheap with the running backs if you've got those playing together.
Which, speaking of, they're already going. Tyler Boyd's already gone. T. Higgins is going. Let's be honest. We all know he's going. He's going to be put on the franchise tag again. He's going. And so all you'll have.
We don't have to think about that because we are talking about how they're going to do right now.
No, that's true. That's true. But I'm just saying, to your point, Tyler Boyd's already gone and T. Higgins going. So all you'll have is Joe Burrow to Jamar.
And Mixon's gone.
Yeah, and Mixon's gone too. So, the Bengals, let's just say, I think it would be foolish for them to go on continuing to refer to Arrowhead as Burrowhead. I think that would be a mistake for them to do that now. I think, I'm not saying that their moment is over yet. I'm not saying that. But it's fractious now. I think it's very fractious to say that they are even the ascendant team in their division, let alone the entire conference. They still have, as you said, the key tools in place, Burrow and Jamar, to have sustained success, high-level success, but I struggle to feel like they're as potent this year as they have been last year or the year before that or the year before that when they went all the way to the Super Bowl. I'm struggling to say that or feel that way this year. So for that reason, my assessment of the Bengals is positive but not glowing.
Yeah.
Positive but not glowing.
I think this might be their best chance for a while, given the circumstances. I do think Chase, he hasn't said whether he will or not yet. I just checked, but I do think Chase will play, whether he gets the money. I think he will get the money, but I think he'll play regardless. He described himself as being a game time decision on Sunday, but I think he's going to want to play.
I think so, yes.
My biggest concern with the Bengals is something you haven't addressed yet. Do you know what Joe Burrow did just before training camp this year?
What did he do?
He buzzed his hair and bleached it.
Oh, did he? I haven't seen this.
That's the sign. That's the sign of somebody going through. That's the sign of somebody going through something.
Should I? Oh my God! I just saw the photo. Oh my goodness! I have to pull this up over here so that people can see.
Either he's going to be the next lead singer of Green Day, or he's going through something. That's a concern.
Oh,
this does not inspire confidence to me.
This is too funny, honestly. I've got to pull up this photo over here so the good folks at home can see. I guess I should just Google Joe Burrow bleached blonde, huh? Yeah, Joe Burrow bleached blonde. Look at this. Oh my word. Oh my word. Look at this. This is what he's doing now. Or I guess no, that's from the past. This is current.
Oh no.
Look at that.
Yeah. Look. Yeah. Go ahead and look up Joe Burrow bleached hair. See the results I'm looking at.
Yeah, well, I've got it here. Joe Burrow bleached blonde. This is what it is.
Oh yeah, the photo of him wearing the salmon or pink shirt or whatever. Right there. Yeah, this looks like he looks like a guy who he looks like some scumbag who lives in Calabasas and is dating a Kardashian.
He really does. This is incredible. I mean, this is taking Joe Cool and Joe Frosty to a whole new level. Incredible.
I'm getting Machine Gun Kelly vibes from this, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, very much Machine Gun Kelly, definitely.
Wow. That is a concerning development, I think.
It is very much a potential concern, I would say. I don't know. I mean, it's.
You were talking about vibes earlier. This is a sign that the vibes internally within him are not great. He's searching for a personal change.
Is it a sign of an identity crisis? Probably.
Yes.
But I'm going to let you in on a dark secret now. I look at this, and I kind of like it.
No, if he was like, I don't know, an Instagram model or an actor, this would look sick.
Sure.
Yeah. If he was Glenn Powell, if Glenn Powell did this, I'd think, oh, that's pretty cool. But this guy's supposed to be leading an NFL offense. He doesn't have the time to be broody.
All I can say is it's difficult to describe, but I kind of look at. I kind of like it, and I like. Yes, is he having an identity crisis? Yes, but I like it for how it looks, and I also like it for the level of confidence that he's displaying here. And I can do this and get away with it. Or no. Let me rephrase that. I can do this, and I don't care whether or not anybody else thinks I can get away with it. I am getting away with it, and that's the end of that. He doesn't care, and I appreciate that.
I guess. I mean, like I said, it would be cool if like Jeremy Allen White did it, but with an NFL quarterback, that concerns me.
I kind of like it. So thank you for bringing this to my attention. Actually, this is great.
Well, who are we missing here?
Well, we still have
We're
to
mi-
talk about the Cleveland Browns.
do we have to?
I'm afraid we do have to. We have to go from.
Actually,
Um,
I did, like I was saying earlier, I was enjoying a bit of the Cleveland Browns last season after they got rid of Deshaun for a little while because he was in pain.
yeah.
Those Deshaunless games I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, well, no, we liked those. Those were good. The Joe Flacco weeks, those were good. We liked
S-
those.
Seeing Cleveland chant Joe Flacco's name was certainly a shock, but
It
I
was,
welcome it.
but it was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
we really enjoyed it. So yeah, the Joe
I'm sure
Flacco,
it was as shocking to them that they were
it
admitting that
was.
out of their mouths as it was to us
Yeah, it
hearing.
was very shocking for them. But yes, I think it's safe to say we definitely enjoyed the Joe Flacco weeks. Definitely a big thumbs up for that. Very fun story.
Mhm.
Um, their defense, that Jim Schwartz defense, wow, whew, it's good, terrific, especially at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll smack the shit out of you at home. I mean, that defense, they don't give a fuck.
Miles Garrett's incredible.
He's fantastic. So yeah, I
Darius
mean,
Smith, incredible.
yeah. So
Owosu,
yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, we love that defense.
Stacked.
Um, it's just the offensive side of things where there are problems. There are problems, and Kevin Stefanski, I gotta say, is definitely a very good coach. He's a very good coach. Um, he won Coach of the Year that one year a few years ago for turning the Browns around, getting them back into playoff contention, as he should have. We like Kevin Stefanski. We love the Jim Schwartz defense, but the offense has got some problems, and the biggest problem, of course, is the quarterback problem. Um, they brought in. We talked about this yesterday, but they brought Deshaun in when he was still very much under a heavy cloud of scandal. Again, scandals that were at that time still under active police investigation. They gave him a huge contract, and not only has that very much soured the new good vibes around the Browns, but on top of that, they're paying Deshaun all that money, and he hasn't even been that good. You know?
Much in the way that the universe rewarded Houston for doing the right thing in that situation. By God, have they punished Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean it's
Paying
been
all that money to get nothing.
yeah, which I mean it's really sad for Cleveland because again Cleveland was just starting to get some good vibes, and it's completely gone sideways now because of this. And the worst part is he hasn't even been playing up to the money. They started Jacoby Brissett, and he did pretty well for those first few games when Deshaun was suspended. Deshaun finally comes in, and all throughout last year, it's like Brissett's still there. It's like Brissett never left. And they practically had Brissett for free. And they're paying Deshaun huge bucks, and he's not playing Deshaun-esque football like what he was doing in Houston.
Yep.
So it's just gone completely sideways. Completely sideways.
Thing is, though, about that quarterback situation, I think much like last year, I think they have a pretty decent line behind him of pretty good backup quarterbacks. I think. Let's see here. I mean, Jameis Winston, he can back him up. They're planning on the inevitable because again, Deshaun Watson reports all training camp and preseason. He's still dealing with shoulder issues. See, he's still not healthy. He might not be able to finish a whole season, so they're leaning on other guys. But
Yeah.
this DTR still there. He had some flashes. Jameis Winston, Tyler Hunt. Apparently they released Tyler Huntley. I was going to use that as another example of another good quarterback they got behind him. He's back in Baltimore, actually. But yeah, he all this time, and he's still not at full health. The season hasn't even started yet, and he's still not ready. So I don't see it working out well for them.
No. And
they can't ride on their defense alone all the way to a Super Bowl. This ain't the '80s, If we were in the '80s, I'm sure this Browns team would have won a Super Bowl by now. But in the current NFL landscape, they're not going that far with this.
Sorry, Cleveland. And I'm going to say, I want it on the record now. I think Cleveland deserves better. I know I'm not the first person to say that, but
the organization or the fans?
Well, the fans first, but both really.
I think the organization deserves whatever comes to them now because of them signing Watson.
Sure. The organization, sure, they get what they get. They get what they paid for. But the thing is, they're not even getting what they paid for. Is the problem?
Well, that's the thing. That's where the karma comes in. They deserve this for signing him.
Well, yes. Well, that was sure. But yeah, the Cleveland fans, again, if not for the Deshaun thing, I think they were on a great trajectory, and now it's all just ruined. So.
If only we could see where they'd be right now if they had just picked up a quarterback in a draft.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Hell, Hurts went round 2 when he came in, so.
Exactly.
They had chances.
Definitely did.
It's a shame.
It is a shame. It is certainly a shame for them most of all. But we have to pick a winner for this division, and I feel quite strong in who I believe in. The Baltimore Ravens, once again, I think are going to win this division.
I'm in full agreement. Full agreement. So that's 3 agreements so far. We're being unusually agreeable today, aren't
we? Well, great minds think alike. Great minds think alike.
Well, usually we don't think alike.
So
who's the great mind?
Well, we're about to find out, because let's talk about the AFC West, our next division. Where do you want to start in the AFC West? This is one of your divisions. So which team do you want to start with?
Hell, I'll just go alphabetical. Let's see. Well,
Denver Broncos.
Broncos, yes. I don't know why I was trying to see who would go first, Chiefs or Chargers.
Oh yeah. The Broncos.
Like it's not obvious, anyways.
Yes, year 2 of Sean Payton. Russ is gone. His cooking went burnt and underseasoned. He's now in Pittsburgh. Sean Payton, and you know what that means. Sean Payton looked at this draft and he said, "It is now time. We have to reach for Bo Nix at 12." And that's what they did, and they're very happy with that based on what they've been saying. Now, ever since they did that, we love Bo Nix. He was always our guy. Mm-hmm. I think they mainly just knew that if they didn't take him there, the Raiders would get him at 15. But they took him at 12.
That's not to say that Bo Nix is undeserving. I think he's got a lot of potential. I was watching a lot of him last year. He's a good quarterback. It's always hard to tell with quarterbacks translating to the NFL. You know, if you're not the most talented scout ever, then there are dozens of quarterbacks who look really good in college.
Sure.
And that skill doesn't translate at all.
Yeah, no, I am assured that he did great things at Oregon. That's what I have heard, that he did great things in Oregon. But I also hear that Oregon offense was a very pass-friendly, pass-happy offense. I think it'll be a different situation in Denver, at least this year.
Yeah, they've got. Yeah, they lost. They lost a couple.
Jerry Judy's gone. Yeah.
Though, if
Sutton's still there.
If Jerry Judy really was any good, I don't think Sean Payton would have let him walk like that. So
yeah,
I think they had already lost confidence in him completely.
Yeah, they let Judy walk, but apparently they love Sutton because they made a point of keeping him. They didn't let him walk.
Yeah.
So,
and I can see that.
Sure.
Yeah. But they brought in Zach Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Probably expecting
much closer to home for him.
Yeah. Probably expecting him to start this season, at least for the first couple of games. But then, from what I understand, that was their intention. But Bo Nix was so good this summer that they just had to make him number one. It's not a New England situation because let's be honest, Zach Wilson, he's not even any. I'll even go as far to say is he's no Jacoby Brissett.
No, I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so.
It's not it's not the highest bar to pass, and he doesn't pass it. So Bo Nix is they're just gonna drop him right in and see what happens.
But that's exciting though. Don't we want to see? I mean, if there's anything that makes you want to watch the Broncos, seeing how Bo Nix is gonna do, that's probably the one thing, isn't it?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I feel like Bo Nix is the kind of quarterback though that in most of the previous years he feels more like a round 2 guy than a round 1 guy. So I think he went super early, and I don't think he's quite ready for all of this. And he's not going to have any mentor there for him. And there's not a lot of, outside of Sutton, there's really no supporting cast to help him out. No mentorship, no supporting cast. A head coach who has had success in the past but has completely been fucking up this franchise so far.
Well, listen.
I'm worried for Bo's sake.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I do respect Sean Payton, and I think that compared to the Nat Hackett season, the Sean Payton season was a lot better, certainly, than at least what came before.
Okay, well, but still, it wasn't anywhere near what anyone expected it to be. It fell so below expectations.
No, well, because last season the hope was if anyone can fix Russell Wilson, it's Sean Payton, and Sean Payton couldn't fix Russell Wilson. So that was the number one goal. That didn't work. But Sean apparently loves Bo, and I think that yes, could it be a little bit rocky to start? Sure, but I think psychologically the Broncos needed this. I think the Broncos needed exactly what they're getting. So,
so maybe Sean Payton isn't the problem, but all the other factors, like I said, no mentorship, very weak supporting cast, very. But dropping my concern is dropping him in week 1, starting him week 1 in the situation that Denver is in could be very detrimental to his development. I'm worried about that for him.
Potentially. But, we all know he's going to get thrown into the fire at some point. So let's just get the pain out of the way now, I figure. And, I mean, let's call it what it is.
I'm a bigger fan of the signing. If you have nobody else, sign an old veteran when you're bringing in a brand new quarterback from college.
Zach Wilson isn't that. So.
Zach Wilson is not that. I don't care how old he is. He looks like he's a 19-year-old ASU frat boy. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't have a lot of confidence that this guy is some wise sage who can guide both.
He's not an elder statesman by any means. But yeah, I mean, let's call it what it is. The Denver Broncos are rebuilding, but that's not to say even in a rebuilding year, some good things can happen. I think that's where we are. They are definitely rebuilding, but some good things might happen. So we'll see.
That's just it. I'm just worried for them. I think they will. I think the record will take a step back this season.
And so from here, I guess we should go to the Kansas City Chiefs if we're going off of your alphabetical arrangement.
Isn't A before I? Or were you doing? I was doing it based on alphabetical order of the team name, not the city name.
Oh, I'm going off of city. So I think that's the disconnect.
Well, let's go to the Chiefs then.
Okay. Is a Chiefs three-peat in the cards?
I know that I don't know if this was on the podcast or not, but I know that the other day I was telling you about how the Chiefs right now are looking like the kind of team where if you want to make an argument against them going for a three-peat, the only thing you can point to at this point is just that it hasn't been done before. so they can't do it. That's the only thing, because every factor other than that, they are no worse, and in many places they've even improved.
Yes.
If they can, like you were telling to me earlier, a couple days ago, if they could do what they did with what they had last year, how can you ever count them out ever again? What can you point to other than it hasn't been done before? But I was thinking about it more, and I can think of some things to say that they might not pull off a three-peat this year. As we've been discussing all throughout this episode, there are a lot of potentially ascendant AFC teams. Who knows what Houston's going to put together this year? Things
ascendant
like
or resurgent as well.
Exactly. And a lot of people who want revenge against these people specifically.
Yes.
At least two powerhouses who want to see blood in Kansas City. And other than that, they've had quite a turbulent offseason too, this Chiefs organization. There's a lot, I don't know, a very turbulent offseason that can either hurt the locker room vibes or maybe push them through. I mean, their offseason started with, of course, the mass shooting at the parade. I could see that being a motivator, or who knows what else. But either way, tragic situation that happened there. Rashee Rice, in criminal proceedings. We're still waiting to see how that's going to play out. But what was it? A hit and run?
Yeah, something.
A Lamborghini going like 140 miles an hour.
A ridiculous speed.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that happened to another AFC team recently, a similar situation. That completely killed the vibes that season for that team. Or for a while it did. Yeah, there's just, I don't know. I feel like we've been hearing a lot of stuff about the Chiefs this season that haven't been too inspiring. Just stuff that's going on with the locker room, player behavior, stuff like that. And the most important thing, their best receiver, Travis Kelce, is too busy being a backup dancer in the Eras tour to be practicing and working out. So that's my argument for the Chiefs not getting a three-peat, is Travis Kelce is too busy having the most famous person in the world as his girlfriend. End of scene.
Yeah, well, look, you don't need us to tell you watching out there at home, that the Chiefs are great. You know the Chiefs are great. We know the Chiefs are great. Everybody knows the Chiefs are great. Even your mom's co-worker's sister, who doesn't watch football at all, knows that the Chiefs are great. Knows who Patrick Mahomes is. Knows who Travis Kelce is. Even people who don't care about football know this stuff. Everybody knows this stuff. So you don't need to, so there's really not much that we can tell you that you don't already know. Back-to-back Super Bowl champions. They won it again last year when most people were saying that it was a rebuilding year. Not a full rebuild, not a start-from-scratch rebuild, but a, by Chiefs standards, rebuilding year. They had a mostly empty cupboard, and they still went all the way. They beat the Bills on the road. They beat the Ravens on the road. They won the Super Bowl, and now they're stronger. And now they've strengthened once again in the offseason. Now Marquise Brown is here. Now they've drafted Xavier Worthy. They've only improved, So what can we sit here and tell you that you don't already know? As you said, I think you put it beautifully. The only thing you could possibly say to doubt their chances of a three-peat is the historical fact that it's never been done. But you know what? everything's never been done until somebody does it. So, by all accounts, we are heading in that direction, honestly. If they could do it last year, they can do it this year. I have no doubt about that.
And even what I was saying about ascendant and resurgent AFC teams, like we were talking about, is that any more so a factor than previous years? They've always had powerhouses to contend with in the AFC.
Yeah.
And they've always dealt with them handily.
And honestly, not only are they going in that direction again, but I look back on last year's playoff run. I think of all the success that they've had, I mean, they've got that was their third ring, I think, in their third or fourth ring in the Mahomes years. Their fourth ring in the Mahomes years.
It's got 3.
And, well, let's see. You've got 49ers 1, Eagles, 49ers 2. Yeah, that is 3. You're right.
Yeah.
I would argue of the 3 rings that they've won so far, and we know there will be more, last year's playoff run was the finest yet. The Dolphins, great offense, right? Come into Arrowhead, flash frozen, decapitated. Go on the road to the extremely vengeful Bills, beat the Bills in Buffalo. Go on the road again to Baltimore, MVP Lamar Jackson. I remember that. Lamar was MVP, voted MVP last year. They think they've got this thing in the bag. This year is finally their year. Baltimore's going back to the Super Bowl. They go from Buffalo to Baltimore and beat Baltimore at home. I mean, it's unbelievable. Again, Baltimore had slapped the shit out of everybody all year last year. Kansas City comes into their place and breaks their hearts once again, just like they have been doing in Buffalo. They go to Vegas, they play the 49ers, and we'll talk about the 49ers in a minute, in the Super Bowl. Another great 49ers team, even better, markedly better, I would argue, than the first 49ers team they faced off against. Beat them too. Thrilling comeback. Once again, down by 10 points at halftime. They come back, overtime Super Bowl, they win the whole damn thing. It's unbelievable. Tell me that is not a playoff run for the history books. That is one for the history books.
I mean, even when they're a little bit down, even when they're not first seed, not going to be playing at home, they still find a way to just not be stopped in any capacity. And they have the celebrity aspect behind that. Everyone who's not even a football fan is all talking about the Chiefs because their connections outside of it, whatever. And that was last season, whatever. Look at this season. Game 1, Thursday night. Patrick Mahomes is already playing in MVP form. Their rookie that they just brought in that people are unsure about, already performing.
Great.
At a top rookie level.
Yes.
Everyone else is doing good. And they beat Lamar Jackson, who also performing game 1 of the season, performing at an MVP level, and they beat him.
Yeah, they beat him.
They looked in peak form, and it's only week 1.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Patrick Mahomes is the magic man.
Last night would have made a great AFC championship, and that's just
it was.
That's just the first game of the season.
We know it would have because we just saw. We
saw it. Well. It was.
It was. It legitimately was. And so yes, Patrick Mahomes is the magic man. We know that. Everybody knows that. And again, I just think back to the last Super Bowl. You have to imagine, again, just the fact that they were playing the 49ers again. It was the exact same situation again, with the 49ers being up 10 points at halftime. I have to imagine that in that 49ers locker room, being up 10 points at halftime must have felt so much scarier than being down 10 points at halftime because they've seen this before. They knew where this was going, and sure enough, it went.
It's so funny with Buffalo seeming to be on the decline. It seems like the Ravens have taken their place and are perfectly playing the role of the Chiefs' heel in the exact same way that Buffalo was before them.
Exactly.
They've become the new Buffalo in the worst possible way. The exact same thing is happening to them as it was to Buffalo.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
So if you're the second best team in the AFC, all that means for you is that
see you in Arrowhead.
See you in Arrowhead. It's going to be a great game, and you're going to lose.
Or either see you at Arrowhead, or you'll see us where you're at. And either way, I guarantee you'll like it just as little, no matter what happens.
The Chiefs will make sure it's entertaining. You'll have sympathy, but you're going to lose. Sorry, that's just the way it is in the AFC.
Exactly. So between that playoff run, the Super Bowl, and what we saw last night, what can we say about the Chiefs? I mean, do I think a three-peat is likely today? Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
At this point, there's absolutely no reason to think it's not possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, now, finally, we get to your alphabetical distinction. Las Vegas versus Los Angeles. So, the Raiders.
I don't know, man. I don't really know what they're aiming for this season. I mean, they've got Antonio Pierce. I think he's going to be a very good head coach for years to come. I've got a lot of trust. I would have a lot of trust in him if I was a Raiders fan. They've lost devastatingly. They've lost Jimmy Garoppolo.
How will they ever recover?
The franchise cornerstone. No, but seriously, they've lost Josh Jacobs, and that could potentially be. I mean, for a good couple of years there, I'd say he's probably the biggest star on the Raiders offense, at least. And he's gone. Hunter Renfro's gone. I don't know. Their season certainly picked up after Pierce was hired last year, so I think that could be an upward trajectory there, but I don't know. They have Devontae Adams. Who's going to be throwing it to him? Aiden O'Connell. Yeah, I was going to say Aiden O'Connell or Minshew, because either way, I don't like those options.
You don't like either of them, yeah.
Yeah, both of them great backups. Great backups. Minshew is a great guy to have if your guy goes down late in the season. AOC is some guy.
Yeah. Unlike the AOC of politics, yeah. The AOC of football is not an electrifying force, I will say.
No, he is just he's not bad. He's not making awful plays all the time. He's just completely unremarkable.
Yeah, he's AOC.
He's just flat out mediocre. Not bad, yeah. Mediocre.
That's indeed.
He's a dude. And you got Zamir White, who is the lead back on the merit of there not being anyone else. Yes. He's decent. From what I hear, he has very little experience playing in the league. And I guess we'll see how Bowers does. Could be good. I don't know. He was drafted pretty high for a tight end. So
yeah, it's not like they needed another tight end. I mean, they had Michael Mayer, who they drafted highly last year. So now they have two tight ends.
Well, yeah. What are they working at here? What is their end?
I don't know.
Get rid of Mayer or just run a very tight end heavy offense?
Maybe. I mean, maybe they're thinking that AOC or Minshew needs all the help they can get. So, yeah.
Better serve drafting a quarterback.
Well, they wanted to. Well, let's not forget they wanted to. They ran out of quarterbacks by the Raiders pick. I
So
mean,
they just panicked. Maybe they pressed the wrong button. That's what it is.
I legitimately think so. I think that even at 15, we can still like land Michael Penix or Bo Nix. They did not expect 6 quarterbacks to be gone in the first 12 picks. They did
That's
not.
like I was saying earlier, any other year, Bo Nix and Penix were round 2 guys for sure.
Or JJ. I think they probably would have drafted JJ McCarthy too.
Any other year, JJ would have been a round 4 pick, honestly.
Yeah, but it was a fire sale this. Any of those 3, the Raiders would have drafted, but they were all gone by that time.
Yep. Maybe they should have. If only there was a quarterback with a lot of potential that was available this season. One like Justin Fields, go get him. I don't know. What are they doing with an Aiden O'Connell Minshew duo? Clearly they're not. Clearly they have no plans on winning this season.
I don't know. I mean, Justin Fields would have been fun. That would have been fun. I'll tell you what. I'm rooting for.
Fields would have made a good Raider. I'll say that.
I think so. And look, I'm rooting for the Raiders this year because I'm rooting for Antonio Pierce.
Sure.
Antonio Pierce, a Giants great, was part of those Super Bowl teams, a coach, filled in as an interim after McDaniels got the boot, got the sack last year. He came in and he gave the Raiders exactly what they needed, put some fire in their bellies. The Antonio Pierce Raiders are what the Raiders should be. Tough, gritty, and will run through a brick wall if it means getting a win. That's what the Raiders should be. That's what the Autumn Wind brand is. Antonio Pierce is that, a kid that is literally straight out of Compton. That is the kind of swagger and the kind of grit that is perfect for the Raiders. And the Raiders, we saw how the Raiders responded to that. The Raiders played so well, they dispatched your coach for you. So
I appreciate them for that, I guess. But that kind of mentality, is that the kind of personality and mentality, like what you're describing is the gritty, push through a brick wall, anything to do to win. Is that the kind of mentality you imagine from Gardner Minshew? Or any guy on the planet who has the name Aiden O'Connell?
No, I'm not saying the quarterbacks are that, but the rest of the team has responded to that.
Aiden O'Connell is the kid whose parents wouldn't let him go on field trips because he has allergies, and for some reason that meant he couldn't go on field trips. That's what that name is telling me.
Well, that's fair enough. Nobody is saying the quarterback situation is ideal.
Dude's not running through a brick wall for anything.
No,
he might get a scratch.
But you know what? Neither was Jimmy G. I mean, that fucking pretty boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not the face.
No, exactly not. So no, I'm obviously.
Jimmy G went to a goddamn Super Bowl, okay?
Yeah, Jimmy G went to a goddamn boarding school is what Jimmy G went to. Yeah, no, there's no streetwise grit there.
I've always had the opposite impression of Jimmy G. He gives me like suave Italian American guy, but like the kind you'd find in North Jersey.
No.
Philly. No, or South
Tommy
Philly.
DeVito is that guy. Jimmy G's not that guy.
Really?
No. Jimmy G's always. Here's the thing. Jimmy G's always been the face. He's a pretty boy.
Yeah, he's a Calvin Klein model Italian.
Literally, he's a Calvin Klein underwear model. If you put Jimmy G in nothing but Calvin Klein underwear, he would have a look of solemn respect, which is traditional for all male underwear models. Mm-hmm. Jimmy G, he's always been the face. I mean, he looks like a Hollywood star, right? And that's great. Good for him. He looks like a fucking movie star, but he's not a star on the field,
Maybe he'll make a good broadcaster one day.
Maybe.
By the way, you bring up a good point. Why do underwear models never look like they're having fun?
No, that's it's exactly the look of solemn respect. That's what that is.
But why? Why can't underwear models ever have fun? Why are they always so serious? You're in your underwear. Don't you feel a little silly?
That's the thing.
Show it.
Well, that's the thing is that the women have fun. Women underwear models, Victoria's Secret models, they have loads of fun. But the men, no fun. It's got to be very somber and very solemn.
I guess that's the message they're trying to convey with the underwear is just that this underwear is so stable, so right for you that you're not going to feel silly if you're just wearing the underwear and nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
This underwear is so good you'll actually feel, if not confident, then at least baseline. You will feel baseline wearing this underwear.
Well, exactly. The message is if you can pull off this underwear as well as I am, then that should be that's not a joyous moment. That's a serious contemplative moment, like signing a mortgage. That's what that moment is. Like sure you should feel good about yourself because that means you probably look pretty good. But this is not a time for jumping up and down. This is a time for conquering worlds. That's what the conquering nations and taking us to different planets.
But back to the actually, I will say this. Back to the Raiders. Based on my lack of confidence with this roster as a whole, but my confidence in Antonio Pierce as a leader, Jonathan, I am willing to give you and the listener something I am not going to give for any other team. I am going to give a win-loss record projection for the Raiders and the Raiders only.
Okay.
Raiders are going to go 8-1.
Wow. All right. Well, you heard it here first.
Yep.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Exactly. But let's move on to the Chargers now. Let's keep going, keep grinding, keep moving.
But yeah, definitely rooting for Antonio Pierce. The Chargers.
Absolutely. The Chargers, may I begin? Can I go?
I would ask you to, yes.
The Chargers it's the end of an era for the Chargers in many ways, several eras. Well, on one hand, it's the end of the Brandon Staley era and the beginning of the Jim Harbaugh era. But in another way, it's the final true ending of the San Diego Chargers. With Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen gone, the San Diego Chargers are dead. And that's, I don't know, I feel a kind of sense of sadness about that. These guys have always been there, that Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen are some of the best offensive producers they've ever had. Not that they've had that many outside of LaDainian Tomlinson, but I'd say maybe Eckler, but definitely Keenan Allen should be right up there with him at this point. Mike Williams is gone too. Gerard Everett, gone. Kenneth Murray, gone. Eric Kendricks, gone. Michael Davis, gone. It's a lot of their mainstays on offense, a lot of their starting guys. But out with all of the old that just no matter how talented they were, it just wasn't working. It has not been working for years, and Jim Harbaugh decided, and he'll get it, which is just outside of Herbert, a complete reset of a lot of this team.
Yeah.
So these two eras are the Brandon Staley era into the Jim Harbaugh era. There's no blur. We are going to see something completely different from these Chargers from here on out. Yeah. So it's hard to say how they're going to do this season and beyond, but it's going to look different. It's definitely going to look different. That's what we do know for sure.
Definitely.
Harbaugh's got a lot of work to do. He's got to really rein this team in, bring him back to somewhere good. And I think out of everyone available, he was by far the most qualified person to do it, so that's very good. I mean, he within the last year, he has won the college football equivalent of a Super Bowl. So brought a team to a national championship. That's pretty good.
Yes, it is.
And tell me, did Pete Carroll find any success when he left college football and entered the NFL?
I think it's safe to say he found some. He did
I
find
think
some.
I think he did too. And I'm going to say I see a lot of parallels between Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll here. Both leaving college football on the heels of immense success, but also cheating controversies.
Which, by the way, I just wanted to add. You say that the Chargers era is officially dead. I could disagree with that. In fact, if anything, I think Jim Harbaugh is the person keeping the San Diego Chargers era alive, because once upon a time he was himself a player of the San Diego Chargers, and that was many years before they moved. So,
well, isn't that funny how that works out then? Because I'm pretty sure with the departure of Eckler and Allen, unless there's some guys on the line I might be missing, I'm pretty sure those were the last vestiges of the San Diego roster anywhere on the team. So if Jim Harbaugh himself was a San Diego Charger, that's kind of poetic in a way, isn't it?
isn't it? Isn't it just? So
it's a nod to the past, but we're moving forward.
yes.
I like that. Yeah, like I said, if anyone can turn these Chargers around and get Justin Herbert where he deserves to be, which is a playoff win, it's Jim Harbaugh.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there's a lot of big questions on the Chargers. All of the guys he's going to throw to have little to no experience in the NFL, and those that do, Joshua Palmer, have always more been in sort of specialist wide receiver roles. Joshua Palmer was never a main guy anywhere. And Quentin Johnston had a very disappointing rookie season.
You have no love for Quentin Johnston.
I absolutely do not. Maybe he can figure out how to hold on to the ball this year, but last year, I mean, it didn't help that even when Justin Herbert was there, he was making passes to Quentin Johnston, perfect passes. He's just dropping them, dropping all of them. That is not inspiring, and that does not seem like a thing that you can just work on and change in one off season.
Yeah, perhaps not. Perhaps not. So
because that was a concern even in college, if I recall correctly, but they went ahead with him anyway. And Quentin Johnston will probably be leaving soon. He's not the receiver profile that Jim Harbaugh likes to work with, from what I understand, or Herbert for that matter, or anyone in the current Chargers offensive staff. So I'm sure he'll be gone soon. So what we have now is Joshua Palmer, who's decent, but has never had this sort of responsibility before, and Ladd McConkey.
yes.
So I like Ladd McConkey. He's got a cool name. I don't know cool. He's got a fun name.
It's interesting. It's different.
It's not cool, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Imagine going through your life named Ladd,
Yeah.
That's
Ladd McConkey definitely sounds like a Star Wars alien would say.
Yeah. Ladd's not a name. It's something you call somebody. It's not a name. So that's interesting. I think he's got some potential. I think he'll do pretty well. Based on my fantasy roster, you can tell that I'm confident that he'll end up being the wide receiver 1 in Los Angeles because I have him on my team. And I think taking the entire Ravens backfield away from his brother will actually work out pretty well for him because, as I said earlier, it's a good backfield.
Sure. Oh,
and they're going from one Harbaugh to another, so that should work out pretty well, especially with them focusing on running more this season.
Yes.
Any thoughts on the Chargers?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I mean, again, obviously you're the Chargers fan here, so you said most of it. All I have to add is, I think that in an off-season cycle where we had majority great coaching hires that I approved of, I think that Jim Harbaugh's got to be the coup of the whole bunch. I think going from Staley, who you had, to Harbaugh, that's huge. I mean, that's enormous. So, in a cycle where I think it was majority really good coaching hires, I think Jim Harbaugh was the best of the bunch. And yeah, it's just, it's a rebuilding year for you guys too. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's a rebuilding year. But there is a lot of reason for hope there. In that, just as we talk about the Atlanta Falcons now becoming a Rams East, the LA Chargers are now trying to become a Baltimore West, a Ravens West. And I think there's a lot of hope there. So, again, you're the Chargers fan here. I think you said it all.
Actually, one more thing. Big point for the Chargers and a big point taken off the Raiders. Tom Telesco is out of LA, the general manager, and now he's the general manager of the Raiders. So,
sure. But he wasn't all bad though. He had some good picks in
there. He had some alright picks, but I don't know. I just didn't. I never generally liked the way Telesco built the team. It wasn't my kind of football team, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, well, you've got Jeff Smith now, who's Harbaugh's guy. Harbaugh signed off on that, so.
For the GM position?
Yeah, for your GM.
It's Joe Hortz.
Oh yes, pardon me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the interim coach that you had after Staley.
Yeah.
But yes, who's also from Baltimore, by the way. So once again, building a Ravens West now in Los Angeles. So, all right. Well, that I think at last concludes the AFC. We just have to pick our Western winners, and well, little wonder here. It's the Chiefs, of course.
Jonathan, do you remember my bet slip from New York?
I remember. So quickly tell the people, and then we'll make that. You'll announce that pick.
When I visited Las Vegas recently, and while there, I went to a sports book, and at the sports book, I placed a little parlay to predict the winner of every single division, and every single one has to be right for me to get the money. And for the AFC West, I chose the Chargers. It was such a ridiculous pick that I had originally picked the Colts for the AFC South, but I wanted to change it to the Texans. So while I was doing it, I asked the casino employee, hey, can I change one of the picks? And he said, yeah, you want to go Chargers to Chiefs? And I said, no, actually, I wanted to switch it from the Colts to the Texans. And he said, so you want to keep Chargers as winning the AFC West? And keep in mind, this casino employee, it's his job to take my money. And even still, he after asking for clarification, he just said, why? Really? Okay. So I felt quite silly doing that. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to say the Chiefs here as well. So, and also, the Chargers were my far off pick. I wanted to do one pick that was a little crazy.
Sure, yeah.
The payout will be good if it happens. Very.
If it happens.
The odds are incredible.
Yeah, I know because you showed me, and yes, you will get paid if that pays out. If that pays out. All right.
Yeah.
So look, we have been having such a good time, as we always do, talking about this stuff. I think we're gonna have to split this up. So.
Yeah.
That's going to be the end of part 2. Join us again in part 3, where we will make all of our NFC picks and then conclude with our week 1 picks. So bear with us. we will see you in part 3. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will speak to you hopefully right now when you click on part 3. So, till then, goodbye, everybody.
There you go.